All right, fellas, here we go again. Okay, so there's tons to talk about, and a lot of it comes from comments that were left on some of our socials or emails that came in to support, questions that we get even in real life when I'm out and about on the road and somebody, asked me a quick question about something to help get the most out of their IEMs. And so we've just kind of been compiling these questions over time so that we could finally sit down and unpack some of these things and hopefully give some people some really practical advice. So some of this is going to feel a little bit rapid fiery, but I hope there's also some great opportunities for conversation on things. I always love to get into the philosophical side of things if we have time, but we'll see how it goes. For now, why don't we just kind of jump into answering some questions that, and by all means, just like pile on the questions if anything comes to mind where, you've been helping some people with a recurring thing over the last 6 months and you just want to add it to the list. Let's dive in and let's see how many people's questions we can answer kind of in advance of them even having to ask us by going through this list. Cool. So here's one that I don't know if we've ever actually given this enough credit or talked about it enough. You do have videos that you've put out about how to get a proper fit out of your IEM, how to, insert the IEM properly. But there's no shortage of people who, when I've actually been able to sit and spend some time with them and talk about like how to best utilize a tip and how to approach utilizing the tips in a way that might work better for some people, but not for others. I'd just love to talk about how to properly test out and utilize all of the tips in the packaging because, I've even hand delivered sets to people and they open them up and whatever tips are on there, just toss them in and don't even really think about it. But I think like there's a huge opportunity that's being missed if you do not take the time and invest it into putting the right tip on your Plunge IEMs. And it's not just about tonal differences. Obviously, it's about fit differences, but it can also be the difference between thinking that these just aren't right for you and them actually being the perfect IEM for you. So I don't know, Simon, why don't you start with some of the questions that you get asked a lot or some of the tricks that you've shown people to get the most out of all the tips that are included in their package?
Start with no tip. That's what I would do. Start with no tip. Put them in your ears. Look in the mirror. See how the monitors are fitting actually in your ear. How do they feel? Can you feel the nozzle? Is it like, does it bug your ears? You can't even notice. Take a picture of them inserted with no tip on. Put the smallest tip on. Put them in. See if they fit the same ways they do with no tip. If they start to stick out, if there's too much black showing, then you don't want to go larger. So we want to see if we can get it deeper. So you want to imitate what you've done with no tip on with the tip. So if you put the smallest tip on, they go in, they sit nice and deep, and you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, they look the same as what they do with no tip. Then have a listen to some music. Is bass response missing? If bass response is missing, then you need to go up a tip larger. Because you're getting the fit, but you're not getting the seal. So you get the fit, go up, move up to the next size, make sure they fit like they fit with no tip on, listen to some music. If the bass response comes, then you're on to your tip scenario.
Interesting. So when you say you're getting the fit but not the seal, so there's a difference between a good fit and a good seal. So what like, how would you define that difference? And what are people looking for when you say a good fit or a good seal?
I mean, that's typically what happens when people out of the box put them in with what tips are on them. They can get the seal. They can go, oh, the bass response, they sound great. But then when you look in the mirror, they're sticking way out. So you're getting the seal, so you're getting the sound, but you're not getting the fit to go on stage. You're not getting the retention, of what it provides.
I think a lot that ends up happening a lot with people when they just first put them in. Like, it's more comfortable to get, like, they'll have the seal, but they're out of their ear. But if, like, it doesn't feel as, like, intrusive almost as an IEM will at first. So, like, people will, when they get the seal and the fit at the same time, they're like, whoa, those are really in there. And it's like, perfect. Yeah. And it's just something to get used to. And I also think like if you have the seal but not the fit, you're going to start to affect like when you start singing, open your mouth, or like jumping around, stuff like that. You're going to affect high end. You'll have low end, high end, like those sorts of things. So it's kind of hand in hand. You will inevitably get one and the other at the same time.
So is a hallmark of a IEM being too deep in the ear that it compresses as you're talking and you start to lose like the tonality changes, or how would you know when it's sitting too deep?
I don't. That's a good question. I don't think they only fit how they fit.
Yeah.
They're not going to fit too deep.
Yeah. Anyone that I've had like on the support side of things that have said that they feel like they're in too deep, a week later are like, oh, they're perfect.
Okay.
It's more
And
of
maybe-
an unnatural, or just like they haven't had something like that before.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever really we've run into anyone that's had them like too deep where they've truly like been too deep. You will never. I don't think you'll be able to get them in if they're
They
like
won't go too deep.
Yeah.
The only way that there's other ones on the market that will go too deep.
Mhm.
Like
They're a stick.
etymonics, because it's just a cylinder and you can shove it in and go too
yeah.
deep. They sound great. Not.
Yeah.
Your plunges won't go too deep. They'll stop. The bowl of the thing stops it where it's supposed to stop.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Unless you put a triple flange, unless you're like third party and put a big long triple flange thing on and try to, then you can go too deep. But
you'll know.
Right.
yeah,
You'll know.
but what we supply in the shape of the thing,
Yeah.
you can't go too deep. So it's a matter of getting used to. If it feels like it's too deep, the tip might be too big.
Yeah.
Too big.
So the tip might be too big. If it feels like, I just feel like my ear's going to explode. It feels like it's swelling, and you can mistake that for being deep.
Right.
Go with a smaller tip to release that pressure, and then you're like, oh, it's not deep. It's just
I know in my personal experience on stage, when like there have been times where when I open my jaw to sing, that it feels like it compresses the tip, and I do notice a change in tonality. And the fix for that, well, there's been a couple of fixes. Originally, the fix was to actually pull it out just a little bit, and that, in a sense, it was almost too deep. Like when I pulled it out, then it ensured that the tip opening stayed wide open. However, now the easy fix is just the stainless steel tip.
Yeah. Those are where it's at.
Like
For sure.
that holds it open no matter what. So that's kind of a fix, and I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
Now that said, I'm curious how hard and fast these rules are. The only reason I ask is because I personally have had experience with helping someone get the right fit in a way that was kind of counterintuitive. And that takes a conversation to like, what else is worth trying? And is there really one right way of doing things? What this experience was someone who just couldn't get low end out of the IEM no matter what they tried. No matter which tip, how they were angling them in and opening their jaw, whatever it was. And so I looked in their ear, and it seemed to me, now I'm not a professional when it comes to like ear anatomy like you are, but it just seemed like there was a really aggressive bend in the ear.
Mm-hmm.
And so by pushing the IEM kind of as deep as I could go with it, in a sense, it was just kind of hitting that wall. And so what we tried was actually putting on a much bigger tip and having it just kind of seat itself further back in the ear and hold itself out. And then the whole sound opened up immediately, and that was the fix. So like, is there anything else that's worth trying, or was that just some crazy lucky once, I'll never encounter that again, and no one else will ever encounter that again? Or like, what are some other scenarios that you've seen where it's like, here's some other tricks, here's maybe they're not the universal hard and fast rules, but like some other things that are worth trying?
Yeah, I think there's no hard and fast rule. It's just we're working with people remotely now. So we have to start. We have to go from the beginning and go, well, what does it look like? Because we have to see if they're actually too big for your ear. Mm-hmm. So we need to see them with no tips.
Hence the no tip.
Hence the
right.
no tip.
Yeah.
They're too big for your ear. We need to do something different. There's always different scenarios. There's, in my years of customs, there was one guy in particular, really great dude, but when he opened his jaw, rather than his ear canal sort of opening, as happens when you open your jaw, his went in the other direction. As soon as he opened his jaw, his ear canal closed. It was a nightmare. I couldn't, we spent so much time working on. I'm like, I've never experienced it. Everybody's ear canal opens up. It's not everybody's ear canal opens up. So it's a matter of going, okay, well, these are the basic rules to follow. It's not even a rule, it's a guideline to follow. And then there's anomalies. Anomalies.
I mean, in the development of that universal product, it was essentially I imagine an averaging of all the ears you had seen over the years, right? The ears of the ears. And so you can't win them all. And we've definitely run into that. We're just some people, it's nope, they just...
No, totally.
Not the thing. And then that's why we have the micro version, but that's also why we want to see the full-size version before we recommend the micro version. But I don't think you won't win them all, but we have managed pretty good percentage, I think.
Totally. Okay. Any other tip advice off the cuff?
I mean, I think those stainless steel ones the hybrids are a really big game changer.
For real.
I, as a monitor engineer, I'm not singing. I'm not really doing a lot of the same things, but I will, those are in my head of what's going on. I'd say the stainless steel tips have been a game changer, just knowing that bore size doesn't change. And then the other thing that's worked for me is kind of what we're talking about. I run into it all the time where I have a guest or someone who forgot their in-ears or whatever, but I'll always hand them in-ears with the tip size down than what I think they probably need, which is always ended up being the yellow of the...
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're the small.
They're the small.
Yeah.
And it works almost every time somehow. I think people somehow convince themselves I have really big ears, so I need really big tips or whatever. But it's we're not talking about the outside of your ear. We're talking about the canal.
Yeah.
And so that I think number one thing for troubleshooting the fit issue would be no tip. Send us a picture. Don't be afraid to just send us a picture and we'll take a look. Cause I have also had people just straight up just not have them in properly.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you also bring up a good point, and that is to not make assumptions about your own ears.
Yes, for sure.
I've I've encountered people who say, "Oh yeah, I've got huge ears. I don't know if these will work for me." You actually see the ears, and it's well, these are maybe a little bigger than average, but why don't you just try these medium tips? And it's boom, there you go.
Yeah.
And so just going with a blank slate. Oh, and by the way, for me on stage, what works best for me is a small on one side and a medium on the other. That's another thing.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
That is super common.
Yeah.
Is to have two different sizes or one different size for each ear.
Yeah.
That's very normal. And so if you do find that you can get a good seal on one side and not the other, just try different size on the one side and see if you can find that balance.
Yeah.
We're not willing to say they will work for 100% of people, so I don't think that you should be able to kind of assume that they will or won't work for you until you've tried all the tips either. So
I think not to get philosophical, but you have to be curious too, and you have to put a certain amount of trust in us. You have to when we send you a product, we've listened to it, we've tested it, we know what it is, we know the bass response is there. So if you're putting in and going, there's no bass response, and you just blame the product, then it doesn't matter what you do. So there's this, trust that you can return them if you can't, but you have to trust that we know what we're doing.
Be open to the
a certain level.
troubleshooting.
And then be curious about, okay, I know that these work.
Right.
How am I going to get them to work? It's I get a new instrument. I know that this instrument works. I got to find the right strength.
Yeah.
Now the tension is too high. Tension's too low. I got to trust.
You're going to swap your patch cable before you email Gibson. I'm sure.
I'm not going to blame the guitar. I just be curious about I know that these work. So what do I do?
Yeah.
Be curious, and you'll find your way with it.
But we're here to help.
Yeah.
Also,
For sure.
reach out.
Yeah. And that's, it's obviously not to say that we know we've created a sound profile that's perfect for everybody in every situation,
No,
but
it's
that
not-
we've
no, I just
created
mean-
something that like out of the box, any given person is going to go, I mean, they
Yeah.
obviously know what they're doing. You know, it sounds, well, I don't,
No, when it gets subjective and you're like, oh, I wish it sounded like this. That's all
totally.
cool.
Yeah.
That's totally
Yes.
cool. But if you're like, there's no bass response,
Yeah.
then it's a fit. It's a fit issue. We're not sending you something with no bass response.
Yes.
If you get the fit and you go, it's not enough for me, that's great.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Send them back. But
Yep.
yeah.
Amazing.